Hello and good day. Welcome to our video channel, God's Promises. And today's video will be a fast, concise overview, Book of Job, chapter 26. Let's get started now. The Book of Job is a fascinating piece of literature in the Old Testament that explores the question of why good people suffer. The story centers around Job, a righteous man who loses everything he has in a series of tragic events, including the death of his children and the destruction of his property. In chapter 26, Job responds to one of his friends who has been trying to convince him that his suffering is a result of his own sin. Job begins by acknowledging the power and greatness of God. He describes how God has created the earth and the heavens and how he controls the forces of nature, such as the wind and the clouds. Job then asks his friend, "How then can you claim to have wisdom? Whose spirit speaks through you?" Job 26 verse 4 NIV. Job is pointing out that his friend's attempts to explain his suffering are flawed because they are based on his own limited understanding rather than God's wisdom. Job goes on to describe the underworld, a place of darkness where the dead reside. He says that God has power over the underworld as well and that even there, his greatness is evident. Job declares, "How faint the whisper we hear of him! Who then can understand the thunder of his power?" Job 26 verse 14 NIV. In other words, even the small glimpses we get of God's power are overwhelming, and we can never fully comprehend the extent of his greatness. The lesson that we can take from Job's response in chapter 26 is the importance of acknowledging the greatness of God. When we face difficult circumstances, it can be easy to become consumed with our own problems and forget that God is still in control. Job's words remind us that even when we don't understand what is happening, we can trust that God is still working in the background, and his power and wisdom are greater than our own. Another lesson we can learn from Job's response is the danger of presuming to have wisdom that is greater than God's. Job's friend was convinced that he knew why Job was suffering, and he was quick to offer explanations. But Job saw that his friend's words were empty, and he refused to accept them. We too can be tempted to rely on our own understanding rather than trusting in God's wisdom. When we do, we run the risk of being misled and making unwise choices. In conclusion, Job's response in chapter 26 reminds us that even in the midst of suffering, we can trust in the greatness of God. We may not understand why things are happening, but we can be confident that God is in control and that his power and wisdom are greater than our own. We must resist the temptation to rely on our own understanding and instead trust in God's wisdom and guidance. As we do, we will find peace in the midst of turmoil and hope in the midst of despair. Thank you for visiting us today. Please share with us your favorite Bible chapter below in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help our channel grow. Looking forward to see you back here for our next video. Always take good care.